All right. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Danny.
All right. So I'm glad that you had the time. I know you've been running around a lot lately.
Yeah, business has been expanding, contracting, expanding again. And I think that's normal life cycles of most business, especially being a first-time business builder. You get to learn a lot on the job through trial and error, and recognizing that ultimately, at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. So, all the mistakes are your own, either how you hire, fire, train, manage. So a lot of the learning curve, but things are going really well for us right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I know when we got on the call, I think I started with, I'm 1,000 decisions in today. It's like all the different things that pop up that we've got to make the decision, and you got to make it quick and, just deal with if it wasn't the best decision later kind of thing. But
Well, I mean, the minimum effective dose, at least the things I've been listening to and reading lately, it seems to be a lot of that, right? What is the minimum viable product that you can send out there and see and test it, right? Instead of waiting and putting a whole lot of time, effort, and energy into it, testing it, see what your people think, what the results are, and then you can make a decision based on the initial results on it. But you're right, as a business owner and entrepreneur, you do get a lot of decision fatigue at times, especially, at least for me, later in the day.
yeah. That's why I've got my coffee. I was like, all right, podcast in 30 minutes. I'm headed to get some coffee real quick. And then it'll kick in like once we're done talking, and then I'll just be bouncing off the walls here. But
Never fall asleep.
But right now, no, I'm good. No, that's cool. So let's start with, how I normally start is just asking how you got interested in the business, and then how you took off and where you are kind of now, just the whole, and take your time with it. It doesn't have to be a 2-minute thing.
Okay. Yeah. So it started off I guess it started off when I was younger. My father was an investor when I was younger, like elementary school, and a little bit through middle school. He had done it semi-successfully, kind of what you see a lot of investors being, right? Being able to do a few deals here and there, make enough money to live, but it wasn't really a scalable business. It wasn't something that worked while he wasn't working. So I saw that and always had the draw to it. Fast forward then to I've already gone through school. I had been in different sales roles, and I talked about it enough on occasion that, one night having a drink with my best friend, I'd just say, hey man, I just need to do this. And finally just kind of, set the beer down, looks at me and goes, you've been talking about this forever. When are you just going to freaking do it? So, a little bit of, tough love from my bud. And then I go look at RIA groups. And that was 2014. I went and found all the local RIA groups and meetups and just started trying to figure out, okay, who knows more than me and who can help me get to where I want to go. So I joined the RIA group in September of 2014. They had a mentorship style program where it helped guide people to, buying that first income property, because that was my primary focus at the time. And it's still a focus of mine, just not my only independent focus now. But they helped guide me to buying my first rental. And I think you know me pretty well by now, but I'm a pretty aggressive action taker. And I bought my first rental that November
Nice.
5th of 2014 to be exact.
Was it a good deal?
Pardon me?
Was it a good deal?
It was a great deal. I've got like 80,000 in equity sitting in it right now. It's great. But now I'm just trying to recapture some of that equity through some different traditional financing. And they don't love the way my tax returns look right now, being a business owner, self-employed such. But I went through that program and then, found the results that I needed, and helped get me to where I needed to go a lot faster than had I maybe tried to learn it all on my own, through the school of hard knocks. So that's something I learned early on, was something that really stuck with me. I wanted to try and find ways to be around people that were further down the road than me, knew more than me, and were better than me at some skills that maybe I wasn't great at. So I'm a good salesperson, but I don't necessarily mean that I'm good at everything in the real estate field, but I'm pretty good about understanding and learning enough to move forward. So in the between of buying that first house and then meeting my partner, Mike Simmons, I had bought 2 additional homes that were rental incomes as well. So these were 2014 here in Michigan, and the economy and the housing market hadn't come back as maybe some of the coastal states and things like that. So there were still great deals to be had, and there still are if you find them, which is our job now. But I started networking, trying to find people that were doing more direct mail and things to find off-market deals, because I had recognized already then that the MLS was much more competitive than when you're going to, direct to homeowners. So Mike was at a point where he was moving away from flipping a little bit and more into wholesaling. Mike Simmons, my partner, has been on the podcast before, was a flipper, I think, from 2008.
Episode 6. Yeah, episode 6.
Okay.
Yeah, early on. He's a good friend.
Yeah, and Mike's great, obviously, because I started working for him as he was scaling out of flipping and going into more wholesaling, because he started marketing, got more deals than he could handle. So he started selling some of those contracts to his other investing buddies and going, wow, I can make some of the money with less of the work and not all of the risk of managing a contractor, an appraisal. I think appraisals were the things that were the bane of his existence for the most part. He would do the perfect job of renovation, and that was the time when appraisals always came in under. So I think he got frustrated enough with that he's like, all right, let's take some of the variables out of the way. I offered to, after meeting with him, he shared a lot of great information with me. And then from there, I offered to, kind of summarize our conversation, offered to work for him for free, because I was in that mode where I needed to learn. And I had a skill set that I recognized wasn't his strongest. Like, he could do it, and that was acquire properties, but I was really good at sales. So I started working for him. We had done that for a few months. And over that time, Mike had seen who I was. I had seen who he was. We recognized we both added value to one another. And Mike went on a vacation. During that vacation, apparently he had time to sit and think and contemplate and strategize. And when he came back, he essentially just asked me what my future plans were. And at the same point, I had been thinking about what my future plans would be. And I essentially told him, look, it's not today, it's not tomorrow, but at some point in the future, I'm going to want to do this on my own. So from that conversation, we decided it made more sense for us to combine our efforts and hopefully see the exponential increase from having two people working towards a similar goal, and then having the scales of economy and to be able to leverage one another's skill sets, networks, and relationships. So that's kind of how I got into wholesaling. That's how we formed Return on Investments. And then our first year, we were doing about a $250,000 clip. Near the end of that year, Justin Williams and Andy started formulating the 7-figure flipping program. So I think Mike and I were actually the official first people to join that group. We had several others that did join. I think you came on the second iteration of it, the second, mastermind event. But we went into that and we just learned so much that we didn't know. Another time in my life, right? I paid to shortcut the process a little bit. And from that, we were able to take our business from $250,000 a year to $1 million a year business by creating systems, processes, and hiring people. And we went up really fast. And hindsight being 2020, it might have been too fast in a way, just because we didn't know what we didn't know. But I don't know if I would change it for anything, right? Because if we hadn't gone fast, we wouldn't have learned where we needed to be stronger, what areas are maybe the more important points to focus on. And coming through that, I recognize where the weakness in our businesses are and how we can improve upon it. So that's kind of the long version / short version, because that's a accumulation of 4 years.
Right. No, that was cool. No, I appreciate the information, and just that several minutes just showed us kind of who you are as a person and how you operate. I mean, as far as getting the information enough to get going and get started. And you said, you guys grew really fast, especially after joining the mastermind group and getting to where you're building out the process and growing really fast, 250 to 1 million. And, maybe you guys made some mistakes along the way because you did it so fast. But, I think even if you did it slow, a lot of times you're going to make just as many mistakes, right? It's just going to take longer. So it's better to get it over with. That's probably not good advice for people listening out there to just go out and buy 20 properties without considering whether they're good deals or not. Don't do that. And that's not what you guys did, of course, but, finding all the things that you don't know by doing it. And, until you do it and make that mistake, sometimes you won't know what you don't know, right? Or the right way to do something until you've gone through it.
Absolutely. I mean, you can listen to all this information and get a lot of guidance, but at the same point, everybody's personal situation, their personal philosophy, their personal worth ethic, their personal risk tolerance, their personal market will weigh in on that. So I could tell you our exact playbook, and it might not work in your exact market. Everyone's going to own their own business. All we can offer, as coaches now, is to say, hey, here's what's worked for us. Here's some recommendations, but you've got to test it yourself. You got to make sure it works for you, your personality, your market, and then make the necessary tweaks to do it. Because the general stuff works. It's just the ground, boots on the ground level that we have to, as business owners, run and manage ourselves and make those tweaks as we see fit.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And Melissa and I were just talking about this very thing last night with regards to the marketing stuff that she's been working on. And it can be tempting to ask other people and get like, what are you guys using? And I'm just going to use that. That's great. That'll maybe shortcut it a little bit, but, and that's not just marketing, but every aspect. There's times where it's just like going on what and just going through some different route, I think a lot of times can be better. Take what other people have done, but then do it your own way, like that fits you. And if you have no interest in doing it, maybe you should hire somebody else to do it, or, just go with what other people have used. Do you guys find that you're kind of like, you get the information from the other people, but then like you just said, you guys are brainstorming together and just doing things your own way from that information?
Yeah. So when we started, we just copied everything Andy did and basically implemented. That got us going really fast. But then we had to backtrack a few things, go, oh, this doesn't necessarily work the exact way we were hoping for it to, or we didn't set up in the same structural way that they did for whatever reason. So that's when we recognize that, yes, we can copy and paste, but then at some point we have to take ownership. And as you get to a certain level, it's more of the little things that make the difference than the big things, right? If you don't have a CRM, everyone go get a CRM, manage your leads, right? Because you need to see and track and see where those are at.
1 month, go get a CRM.
Exactly. Go get a CRM in 1 month. FlipPilot.
FlipPilot. Yeah, FlipPilot.
But that's the big thing, right? So there's big chunks of things that everyone can do and take advantage of. But then how does that workflow work for your system? Because my team's going to look different from your team. That's going to look different from Andy's team and other people's team and whoever's listening's team. So then having the customizability or ownership of how you want to see that lead progress through your system, what your specific metrics are for how often you follow up, when do you pull someone off your list, do you pull them off your list? Like, those are things that you have to own yourself, because every market might be different. And some people are super aggressive, some people are less aggressive, and really it can be varied. And I agree. It's all about owning what you do. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, whoever gave you the advice, while they might be with the best intentions and give you everything they have, ultimately you're the one that's responsible for your destiny and making sure it gets to where it needs to be and making the necessary adjustments.
Right. Now that's huge. And something that's probably not talked about that often, because it's like, I used it and it didn't work. You don't reach back out to the person and say, hey, it didn't work for me yet. You have to do something that works for you based on what you learned from that and from other people. But you had talked about getting enough information, just going. That's like how you are, right? Have you taken the Colby test? KLO?
I have. I'm a big quick start, but I'm actually a rather high fact finder, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, so I was going to say you're probably middle of the road or lower on the fact finder.
Yeah, with the disc analysis, I'm a super high D, mid to grade I, middle low S, and really low C. So I've never been much on details, but I like to find facts, but I guess I don't care about the minutia of it. So I like to get enough of the big chunk information that I think weighs in on like the 80-20, I guess, for the best part. I need to get most of the information, and then I'm willing to take an action on it. And I don't know why or how or what that was implemented. I think it might've been partially, through sports growing up. Like, you can only have so much information, and then the rest is through practice and just repetition and habit forming. So I think that, and then also going through sales, right? You can't make sales calls with every bit of information every single time. So you have to be comfortable with a little bit of uncomfortability.
So you said your highest is the quick start?
No, my highest is the quick start. Yeah. Then fact finders below that. I don't remember the other two. I haven't looked at in a while.
Yeah. Follow up. And then I always forget the other one. I forget the other one too, but follow up, quick start, fact finder. And I wonder if the high D has something to do with that too. So it's like the high D and the quick start together. I just imagine it's like hard charging all the time.
Yeah, it's hard to slow down, and I'm intentionally trying to not talk as fast as I normally do right now, because usually I can whip them out. I think you can tell that I'm trying to let your listeners' ears stay on pace with me.
I'll slow it down. In post-production.
Yeah, I go 3 times speed when I'm listening to podcasts. It's nuts.
It wouldn't be good, because then you'd have me going super slow. It'd be like a sloth talking. In fact, I did an intro for the last episode. I did a deep voice because I wanted to change my voice a little bit. I didn't go so well either, but
like Darth Vader style.
Yeah. So Mike, tell me. No. But anyway, yeah. So you guys are working together. You guys are both entrepreneurs, and you found a way to work together because, like you said, you found a way for both of you guys to add value and it wasn't just like two guys that both brought the same value trying to work together, just so that you can blame each other when something goes wrong. Have you found any issue with you guys working together? As far as like both being kind of idea people and the implementation part of it, how'd you work that out?
Yeah, that is, I guess, a problem we do struggle with at times and continue to struggle with. We haven't figured out the exact resolution to it yet, although we've been kind of pinging ideas. What we've worked well with so far is basically having division of labor, right? We split our business essentially into two departments, right? There's acquisitions on the front end and dispositions on the back end. He manages that. I manage mine. As long as I get enough contracts from my team that are profitable and sellable to him, I get to have a lot of control over what happens on that, almost the implementation side, and the same thing for him. But the really nice thing is we get to share ideas. We don't necessarily tell each other what to do. We go, hey, here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea, and vice versa to me. And then we take time, we follow the EOS model. So that's the entrepreneurial operating system. It's basically from the book Traction. But we identify every quarter, we sit down, we spend a whole day to determine what's the biggest things that we can do for our business in the next 90 days. And then we just make sure we focus on that. So it's always kind of, we fall off of it occasionally. We're not the best at it all the time, but we always try to have that guiding light. And then if we find that we're doing tasks that aren't related to what is going to move our business forward the most, then we can call each other out on it, in a friendly and positive way. But we are both very driven, and that sometimes causes heated debates, but I don't know that we've actually had a huge argument ever. So I think it's being able to separate the business from the personal side. And when you're talking about ideas and discussing ideas, you're not attacking the person, but you're maybe talking about the idea and, challenging it. Because, if we just always agreed with one another, we do every crazy thing on the planet too. Because some of the ideas we come with are pretty off the wall, but sometimes some of those off the wall ideas lead to the nuggets of a good idea.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that comes from each of you understanding where the other's coming from. Right.
Exactly.
And that's something that we've been learning here big time over the last year, especially is like you could hear somebody saying something, but when you have a differing opinion, it's so tempting to just think that you understand where they're coming from when you really don't, right? Because you're still just, I know I'm right. And what you're saying, I hear you, but I don't believe it. And just coming to that realization that a lot of times what you thought that they're trying to say is not what they're trying to say. And if you just listen and be open to it, then you can finally, oh God, he's kind of saying the same thing I am, just it's a better idea. It's a weird thing unless you've been there, right? It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, well, our egos have a funny way of getting in the way of things, right? We want to be the person that did everything. We, at least, for mine and Mike's personality with the high D, we want to be the one that gets we did this. It was my idea. And this is going to sound woo-woo, but I've been doing a lot of meditation since the beginning of the year and try to do it, every day if possible. I've not always done it, but it helps me create a small space between when, I feel something and how I respond to it. Sometimes I catch it with enough space, not always, but it helps me take that second to wait, let me hear him entirely out, taking a second to think about this, and then make an actual response. Not what am I thinking? How am I going to respond to this to win while he's talking to me?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's what it is. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and just putting in terms of thinking in terms of not responding right away. Just pause, right? Wind your watch, as pilots say, if something goes wrong. Wind your watch first instead of reacting and doing something stupid.
It's a great analogy. That's exactly what it is, right? Because we feel we have to do everything right this second. And I feel probably more than most, but really a response pause of a few seconds, that's not going to change anything other than probably give you a better opportunity to make a better response.
Yeah. And whenever we were working with the business coach, I was working with at the beginning of the year. And the big thing was always, when things would come up and I would talk to him and be like, how am I going to deal with this? I got this issue. And the first thing he'd always tell me is I can sense a lot of emotion. And it's like, wow, I'm pretty heated. He's like, well, that's not good. Like, why don't you cool off and then come and talk to me again? Or that's the first thing that you got to do, because your decision-making is going to be screwed up when, you've got something that's creating an emotional, response in you. Right.
Yeah. And good decisions typically don't come from emotional reactions. You might be passionate about the decision, but being reactionary oftentimes does not lead to the best results.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true. So you guys have been, working with the team for several years now. You've had people on your team. Do you mind sharing with everybody what that team looks like?
Yeah. So as it stands today, this is kind of a newer development. We haven't even shared it with the groups yet. It's something that we might talk about at the next event. But right now we have a dispositions rep manager that is responsible for selling the contracts or determining the best way to monetize the contracts we get, whether it be to flip it, hold it, wholesale it, whatever, or just assign it via wholesale assignment contract. Then we used to have a transaction coordinator, but we eliminated that position. We found it continuously struggling to get someone that cared enough or knew enough or took enough action. So we gave that responsibilities to the dispositions manager and then gave him a clerk that could help with some of the more clerical stuff, run into the counties, doing this, maybe grabbing paperwork, some of the stuff that isn't, I mean, it's necessary, but not necessarily value add. So then there's dispositions manager and a dispositions clerk on our team right now. We have got a lead intake / lead manager who is primarily responsible for all the leads as they come in, phones, lead propeller, Facebook, PPC, stuff like that. We have a sales acquisitions rep that goes out on the appointments and goes and visits the homes, puts the properties under contract. We currently have 3 junior sales reps, and essentially we created that, and we're still kind of in the experimental phase with it, but it's looking promising, as I'd shared before, that is essentially going through a 90-day boot camp for sales training, learning our systems, learning our processes, learning the CRM, how to value properties. So it's a great sales training program and real estate training program. So if they are able to prove that they're awesome, they get to stay on our team. If not, they've got a lot of great training from us, and then they, go on their way. And then we've got Mike and myself who kind of sit on top of the 2 departments of acquisitions and of the dispositions.
Nice. Sounds like a great team. And I like the idea of that training. You call them junior sales. Is that what you said? Junior?
Yeah. Junior sales. I advertise it as entry-level sales, but anybody that wants a sales position in our team has to go through that anyway. And I tell them that on the first phone screen and see if they're okay with it, because what you'll find is the people that know they're going to do really well and can see through the forest through the trees, as they say, they're willing to kind of take a step back, take their knocks, prove that they actually add value. And those are the people that are going to stick with your team long-term as well. They're not just hired guns.
Yeah. And that's huge, because I know that we had the issue from time to time of thinking we're not going to be able to find somebody entry level that's going to be good enough, or, that's going to be willing, that's good enough, that's going to be willing to take this pay or whatever. And are you finding that to not be true?
I haven't found it to be true right now, although I have talked with we have a recruiting specialist we're using ZipRecruiter right now. We've tested, WiseHire, Indeed. So we're going through a phase right now, but he's said that right now the job market is extraordinarily difficult to hire salespeople, and you have to set it up like a sales funnel, because most people work from 9 to 5 in an office in front of a computer or have access to the internet. That's when most of the people do their job search. So the good salespeople are out on the road closing deals. So they might have a chance to apply, but they might not be able to do some of the things that we want them to do to prove that they're, willing to follow through. So essentially I have a 5-step follow-up process for anybody that applies now to get them to take the personality profiler we use. Then once they do that, if they fit the right criteria, then I make them schedule their own interview, phone screen. That's a Zoom link, so I can see them, how they present themselves. Can they actually use technology? That alone has weeded out a lot of people, because some people have been good salespeople. They can't understand how to turn a computer on. Unfortunately, that's a requirement of our business.
Right. So so instead of a phone interview, you're doing a Zoom like this.
Yep. Zoom. I see them. I can see how they present. Do they dress up? Or they have bedhead? Right. It's an interview still. And what it also helps me do is and at 15 minutes, that's all it is. So I can fit that into regular chunks of my day. And I just cap it at 2 to 4 appointments, interviews a day. That way I'm not burning out, not giving everyone the fair amount of time they need. But pretty generic questions, just asking about who they are, why they want to work for us, why I should pick them over other people, right? I want to see, can they prove value or talk about why they'd be an asset to our company? Do they think in that way? Are they looking at us as a paycheck? We want people that want to earn their spot on our team, add the value, and then therefore be compensated, because the best salespeople make most of their money from commission and bonuses, not whatever the base or draw is. Right,
right. So what do you say to people that say, man, hiring is just so time consuming. I've got so many more important things to be doing, or maybe they know that it's important, right? But it's just like, it's so painful.
It is. What I do is now it's a constant process. No matter what, I go check my applicants Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I have those generic basic. I created created script essentially, drafts that I send out to everybody that, essentially is the same message, whether they're on step 1 through 5 of them filling out their profile and things like that. So I try to systematize it as much as possible. And the same thing, I use a Calendly link. So when they schedule their own interview, it's popping up on the free time of my calendar and then it's just there. And then I don't let anybody schedule within 48 hours. So I don't ever feel rushed about it. I just don't like that either. So I've been trying to set up a little bit of barriers, but also it's like our sales funnel, right? When we're trying to generate leads, we've always got to be generating leads. As growing businesses, we always want to find the best people and make sure we're always looking for them. So I run ads. I haven't turned an ad off in the past probably year and a half. We're always running them and having people come in. And the nice thing is the more you build a strong team, the more selective you can be. And therefore the time you spend are only on the best people. It's kind of like you addition by subtraction, but once you build a good team, then you can really just focus on finding the top level talent of those people, right? You don't need them at this time. So we're just trying to find the best people and you're in more of a position of power.
I like that a lot. How do the people that are working with you guys feel about, do they know that you're constantly looking for people?
Yep. We share with them. We say, look, if you're on the team, it's because we think you're the best available right now. We encourage a culture of growing and learning. So if someone comes in and is better or pushes them, good. We hope to have the people that keep pushing, because everybody in our team, if we find someone that's just as good or better than them, we're going to put them on the spot. And then if they're adding enough value, we'll just find more ways to keep them busy, right? We'll send more mail. We'll do more advertising. We just expanded in Nebraska. So we'll add a new market. We'll find ways to keep top talent busy, because if they're providing a return, or we're paying them X and we're getting Y, and Y is greater significantly than what we're paying X, why wouldn't we? It's much like our mail and our advertising dollars. If I spend $1 and I get 5, how many more times can I do that?
Yeah, cool. So which positions are you constantly hiring for, or are they all of them?
What I've identified in our business, for the most part, every position is a sales position. So it's always sales. Even dispositions, it's a different kind of sales. I think it's more of a relationship farming style sales, but our acquisitions and our phone people, they're selling, right? The phone people have to sell the prospect of why we're a good value for them, but they also have to be able to uncover, probe, and understand how to qualify them, and then sell them on scheduling an appointment with us to purchase their house. Then the actual acquisitions person that goes on the appointment has to be able to understand and dig even deeper, right? We've peeled the onion back a little bit on that first screen. Well, now they get to dig in, be surgeons, because they're really good and well-trained at how to really uncover motivation and understanding and doing the needs analysis portion. So when we actually go on the appointment, we should be pretty close. Like, we're knowing if we're going to get a yes or no decision. And that's really the biggest thing, is knowing no maybes. Because maybes are the things that take time. And if it's no, that's fine. We'll put you in our follow-up. We'll check in with you from time to time. But we're not going to waste our time or spin our wheels on those false starts.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. And the point of the salesperson on the phone, that's big. Yeah, because when we're doing everything ourselves, right? We take the time, right? We take the time to talk to the people, find the motivation, because we're going to be going on the appointment. But when you grow the team, you can tell people to do that, but when they haven't experienced it, or they're not going to the next step because they're just doing the calls, like, that's probably not going to happen very well. And so if they're not trained right, you could end up with, well, I've been taking the calls and I answer them right away and I get the details, but then you listen to those calls, and Melissa had been doing that. And, there have been times where it's just like painful to just hear how that conversation goes.
Actually, what you just said is making me think something. I think there's probably an opportunity. So our phone person right now is awesome, because she started as acquisitions and actually moved into phones. It was a better fit for her. So she understands that next phase. So I actually think maybe I'm going to have everyone that ever takes that phone have a cross train, spend some time in the field, see what they're seeing, so you understand how to qualify that best.
Man, look at that. See,
mastermind on a podcast right there.
I'll have you back in a week for another episode. I got to get Mike on here. I hadn't realized it'd been so long.
I know. He's going to get jealous.
Yeah, probably will.
He's just going to say he went first, though. So yeah. I know how he plays.
So he's a high D too? I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. He's a higher D. No, I think we're both 99 Ds.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's amazing how we still get along, because we really do a good job of it. Usually you'd see a lot more head smashing, but we're pretty decent about not doing that.
Oh man, that's crazy. 99. All right. So we had also, before this conversation, before we started recording, we had been talking about, I gave you guys that demo of FlipPilot, probably a week ago. It was rushed, right? Because we both had appointments right afterwards. But I wanted to get into a little bit of what you guys have been going through as a team, what you've been looking for, and what the need is in your business, right? What are the things that you guys found a need for some kind of system to help you within your business?
So as a salesperson, my entire professional life, right, I've always relied on CRMs. And if you're not familiar, it's a customer relationship management tool. And essentially what that is designed to do is for you to be able to manage the leads as they come in and always have up-to-date information, as well as a next step with that person. So you're making sure you're reaching out to them again when it's the appropriate time, but not having to always be thinking about it. So the original versions is a calendar, right? People just write in, hey, I called this person back on this date, and maybe keep their business card with some factoids on it. Obviously things have evolved. So I have always found incredible value in it. And our business is essentially a sales and marketing company. If you really take it back to the super highest level, we're sales and marketing in terms of generating leads, getting contracts, selling those contracts, and then keeping it going again. But our biggest struggle has been usability. So I've worked on a lot of different platforms. We're currently using a system on top of Podio. And what we found is that Podio is starting to become unreliable. The information may disappear. The tasks might not happen. They might revert back to previous states. We might lose our notes on things, all of which are unacceptable, because the purpose of a CRM is for me to go, okay, I just interacted with this seller. Here's everything that happened. So anybody that ever touches that again knows exactly where it stands. And then I put my next step in, or I set up an automation that, is a follow-up, automated follow-up, or like a, text, email, voice drops, all things that I'm pretty certain that FlipPilot's going to do. But what we need to be able to do is make sure that our leads are getting converted to the maximum capacity, and the reliability and the trust that the system's going to work every time. It's not going to create duplicates. It's not going to create confusion, because any of that stuff makes us look less professional. And that's what we're selling. We're selling people a solution to whatever problem they have when they're a seller to us. We can alleviate that. And the more professional we can appear, and actually what we want to be, but our CRM right now is not allowing for that, then that can introduce interruptions and pattern interruptions. And that just chips away at your credibility and their confidence in you. And typically in these situations, people are already scared. They don't know what's going on. Most people don't do a lot of real estate transactions. So the less we can make them feel fearful or uncertain, the better. So that just goes back to the credibility. Hey, I'm going to call you back on this time and this day. And then I do it. Oh, hey, I thought we were talking about this other person. They said they were going to follow. How'd they do? Oh, I haven't heard from you yet. Oh, I wonder why not. Right now we can start leveraging how we do what we say we're going to do, and how that might not be what the other person that we might be competed against does. And being able to take that off our mind and be solely focused on this lead we're working with right now goes back to trusting your CRM and knowing that it's doing what it's saying it's going to do. The other challenge that we've had in our business forever is how do we track our metrics and our scorecards, and making sure the data we have is easily understandable and not super manual. And this is probably one of the things I'm most excited about the new CRM from you, is really what's going to happen is I have to manually track when we get a property under contract. I have to manually track where stage it's at, because I don't trust that Podio is giving me the right information. So I've got to trust that I have to check when we have a buyer. Then I update it again when we have a seller and when we actually close. That way I can track my quota, and then now I can see which campaigns attached to it. So now we can look at what's the most effective marketing. Because if we spent 10 grand on a piece of marketing in a certain area that we didn't get any money on, and we've been running that for 6 months, well, it's probably not a channel we want to continue, because we want to always track what we're doing and making sure what we're doing is profitable still. And just because something worked when we first started, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same today. So as long as we're always tracking that and then looking at it in the different chunks of time, as well as over the historical long term, then we can make better decisions as business owners. And a CRM that can really do that would be optimal. Because then you can have everything in one spot and really trust that the data is right. As long as, there's always the worry of garbage in, garbage out. If your people and you are putting in bad stuff, it's not going to spit out good stuff either. But just having a reliable system that I know every lead is being managed through and through that's what I really need and hope for in the near future. Cause that's really probably our next big decision is what do we move to?
Yeah. Well, I've got you covered.
I'm excited. Yeah. What I saw looks awesome.
Yeah. So that's been the big focus, right? Is having everything within the system. And when you look at the fact that a lot of these leads are going to come in through the phone, that's a big part of it, right? Because you've got to have that system be able to track that for you so that you know this came from this because they called that phone number. And we've gone and taken it even a step further, and we're tracking marketing interactions per property, right? So if they called you from a postcard that you sent out for, like tax delinquents or something, and then, like a month later, they didn't have that postcard, but they wanted to call you. So they Googled your business, found you, and they called you through your website. You know that originally they found you from that postcard, and then a month later, and they'll tell you, and they can, person on your team can put in the notes, yeah, they said that they lost the postcard and looked for us. Then you know that the postcard for the direct mail piece for your tax delinquents should get the attribution for that lead, right? And then your metrics are proper and correct in showing you your return on investment. So the cost per lead, cost per deal. But then, like you said, going a step further and looking at what are we actually generating in profit from the deals that come from those sources, right? And taking a look at which sources are bringing us better deals.
Yeah. Are we getting 15 deals at $500 a pop? I'd probably want to cut those out because it would probably cost us more in man hours than the actual deal profit.
Right. Yeah. So it's huge. And then, all the task stuff and accountability and, the dashboard's been something that we've really worked and spent a lot of time on trying to make not be one size fits all. Look, here's a cool dashboard. It's got some graphs on it. I hope you're happy with it. It's all you're getting. We wanted it to be like, I need to see this number and this number for this person and this person, and then this number for that marketing campaign and that one. And without making a giant dashboard that's, like billboard size that has all the little things to cover all those, we got to make it where you guys can customize them. And that's what we've done. And it's pretty insane. And then allowing you to build your dashboards and as many as you want.
Yeah. I mean, customizability is awesome, but at the same point, and I know I'm probably one that pushes hardest for customizability but the thing is, when you have a good, reliable CRM, it's pretty easy to go out of the box and go, right? It doesn't have to be as advanced and nuanced as ours, but because when ours first started, I think we were using REI Mobile. And before that, I was just using like Evernote. So like you can have it very rudimentary, but being able to consistently know where you're at and each lead is being handled the right way, it gives you the ability to lose some of that stress. We already have enough of that as business owners. We have enough decisions. If we've already made that decision, we put it somewhere we trust that system, then we can forget about it and let that stress go. And that's one less decision we have to worry about.
Yeah, which sounds kind of, interesting whenever you're getting, maybe like 10 leads or something a month. But as you scale up and you're starting to get 30, 40, 50, 100, keeping track of the follow-up, which mostly doesn't get done when you're getting more than like 15, 30 leads a month, right? Like it's just impossible because you're working trying to get new leads. If you're a smaller organization and then as you get bigger, you've got to trust people are doing the things that need to be done, and having a system automate some of that's going to help.
Well, even if you are a small system and you're only getting 10 leads a month, that compounds over time. That's 120 leads a year that you should always be following up with until they say, leave me alone, or you buy their house. So that compounds over time. So even if you're doing 10 a month for 10 years, that's a lot of leads in your system. And I mean, at our last event, someone raised their hand and said they just got a deal from something that they've been following up on for 7 years.
Nice.
Right? So I mean, you never know. And as long as you're consistent with, I think he had something like 500 follow-ups or something crazy. But the thing is, right, persistent follow-up and consistent follow-up really helps save the bank. And I think Don even mentioned, at least to me, I think he said he mentioned on the podcast about he gets 40% of his deals from follow-up campaigns and follow-up prospecting. And
I think he even told me that he mails to them until he buys.
Yeah, we mail to everybody until
they call and say don't mail him. I don't think he takes them off the list. It's just like
we don't either. Shh.
But so mail police, these guys over here aren't doing anything. But no, that's Yeah, that's a big thing. And whenever I was releasing REI Mobile years ago, the test address that I would show people when I was doing demos was this property that I had been following up with for like 8 years. And I kid you not, I hadn't talked to the guy in like a year at least. But I was doing these demos. I'm using that address because just in my mind, it's just always there. It's like a weird, even, it just flowed right in my mind. That address is the address always comes to mind first, right? So I was using that address. And after a week of demos, I get a call from him after like a year, and he's like, "Hey, I'm ready to sell." And I was like, "You're kidding me." And it was so funny because his daughter was the holdout, right? He had lived in this house by himself, but his daughter didn't want him selling it. And it's like this big old house in a historic neighborhood. And so he said, "My daughter's finally ready." And I said, "Well, awesome. I'll meet you over at the house." And I went over to the house. His daughter was there first, me and her. We're standing on the front lawn waiting for him. And it was it was awesome. It was like 9:30 in the morning. And this old red truck comes barreling down the road, hauling butt, making a bunch of noise, jumps the curb, he parks in the front yard. And he gets out, and these beer cans fall out and stuff like that. It was interesting. But anyway, that was memorable. But that was 8 years of follow-up.
That right? Put it out into the universe, stay in touch, right? Especially with some of these newer systems and some of the stuff you showed me, like staying in touch with people and following up gets easier and easier with technology. As long as you put some of the upfront thought process into what it looks like. And I know I'll help with, maybe building out some of what those follow-ups look like with your team. But if you put it out the thought process up front, then you can have a good, nice message that really works in perpetuity. And that's what we want. How can we scale our businesses by taking some of the manual things that are tedious and people don't traditionally like, and automate them in a way that's friendly to the seller and ourselves?
Yeah. Automation that looks like automation is usually not all that great. And that's, in the early days, it was like that, right? You couldn't do anything but send like a canned generic sort of statement. But now with the ability, what we do in the system in FlipPilot is all the short codes. And so it can look like a text that you actually typed out because it's got their first name and the address of the property, and maybe even the date that you made an offer to them on.
So by short code, maybe I'll clarify for everybody. That means basically you can put like a little code in there that signifies something in your data. So like first name, specific property address. So you can enter that stuff. And then that way, if you send it out to 20 people at the exact same time, it'll update it based on that personalized information in the system, but a canned response, which is awesome.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And, and handling all the routing of the phone calls and text and all that kind of stuff has been challenging and interesting, but we wanted to make sure that if a call comes in, it's not missed, right? And that somebody returns that call as soon as possible. And something that Melissa just found the other day was, are you guys using CallRail right now?
Yes, we are using CallRail right now.
She was going through, and then there was quite a few calls that were saying abandoned call, right? So it was like 15 seconds or something. And, it had a little warning that said that this call may have never rang the phone of the person that it was forwarded to. And it's geez. Wow. So if you're not looking at CallRail and looking at that call log all the time, you could have leads that you're not even aware of that didn't get picked up because your acquisition or your lead intake person's phone didn't even ring. Right. Or maybe rang once, or, it's because there was a sizable amount of calls. I think she had said something like 20 something %.
Whoa. That's a huge chunk of opportunity.
Some testing, right? So looking at how long are we ringing each of these numbers, and how long is this delay taking? Because with phones, it's pretty complicated, right? Because if you have a call going out, it's got to go out to a system that handles those calls, right? The switching that happens. And then that's got to go out to a bunch of different places and then go to some tower that's actually sending this cell signal to a phone and having it ring. And, there's a lot of delays that can happen. So what you think is an instant thing is not instant. And so getting all that, situated and kind of taken care of to where if we can have that system show you all of those calls. So even if it was like what would be deemed as an abandoned call, you would still see that on your system, right? Like this call came in, may not have rang their phone on their cell phone if it got forwarded that way, but we know that call happened.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, we spend a lot of dollars to get that phone to ring. If a certain percentage of them are just disappearing to the ether, that's not
Right.
not
Do you
something
guys
I'm
look at
excited
that,
to
or
hear.
does the Podio system you have right now show that? If have you checked that, like a call that came in, maybe an abandoned call?
So my intake person's a rock star, and she sits. I recently, actually, yesterday, made the decision that no one could use cell phones anymore. So I just turned them all off. They have to be sitting on the lead or the call center using the cell phone. But she's in there all the time and managing and tracking it for us. But that's her going above and beyond. So I'm comfortable that she's probably caught it. But she did mention something about things not going into Podio all the time. So I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, and she was talking about then.
Yeah, yeah. So, but if they're on the computer though, and they see that, that's the kind of thing that you'll see with FlipPilot. But even if you're not on the computer, when you log in, you're going to see those notifications, right, in the system. So it's just things are changing, right? And with the technology, and it's exciting, and it's just like finally after all this time of development. So, but yeah, incredible. So, what other things are you interested in kind of keeping track of call response times and missed calls, or do you or any of the other kind of like things that you're having to pull together and put in a spreadsheet to keep track of your metrics?
Yeah, I mean, tracking on the individual basis would be huge for me, right? Because we have scorecards. Certain people have to have a certain amount of appointments scheduled, a certain amount of appointments held, contracts signed. So having that database available without me manually having to do it would be huge, especially like the live answer percentage. I've been wanting to know what that is per person, who answers the most, who answers the least. But that's a lot of work. And as I said, I'm not a super detail-oriented person, right? I know the information there. I could go find it if I really wanted to, but I can't. If it's not easy to find, I have to manually spend 20 minutes every day to do it. It's hard to manage that on a daily basis, which a sales manager really needs to do. So I find myself having that internal struggle, and then usually my nature wins out and I just don't do it.
Well, that probably happens with a lot of things for everything, right? Because your intentions are to do it, and life gets busy and you have other things that come up. Have you, it's like the weekly planning. I don't know how many times in my life I've said, okay, Monday, I'm going to do this kind of thing. Tuesday, I'm going to do this kind of thing. Wednesday. And it never lasts for more than a week. Never, ever. And I don't even try anymore because I know it's not me. I can't do it.
Yeah. What I've found is time blocking will work, but it has to be it can't be like Monday's this day, Tuesday's that day for me. Like Monday is meeting day for me, but then as soon as I'm done with my last meeting, I spend the rest of the afternoon with my wife because I'm done. There's no more decisions that I can make. There's no more information I can do. I'm useless in the business capacity anymore. I'm still good socially, and I'm not bored of my wife, but I can't make great business decisions after that. And then like Thursday mornings, I do workouts with my wife, like a date morning. But other than that, I'll just have the time like, hey, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. And I'm going to focus on building out a job description from this time to this time rather than, hey, this is what I do every single week. I mean, right now, at least our business is too, I don't want to say scattered, but sporadic and random potentially, right? The fires, you're not quite sure where they're going to pop up. And then, your priorities can shift, as you learn more information. So I'm the same way. It's not predictable enough where I can go like, Tim Ferriss. I do all my podcast recordings this day at this time. And then I do all my workouts this time. It's just not for me. The only thing I do consistently is every morning I meditate. That's about it.
That's awesome. So how long do you meditate every morning?
It varies. I use an app. It's called 10% Happier. It's from Dan Harris. It's basically called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics. So it has a lot more guided meditations, and it has like videos that kind of connect the why behind it, which helps me sit around. So it's usually somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes every morning, depending on which course I'm going through. If I don't have enough time, they have some on-demand stuff. So if I know I'm running out of time, I can do like a 1 minute one. Like they ration it down that much. So you build the habit and you don't feel bad when you only have a second to do it.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that sounds cool. I'll have to try that one. Yeah, I've been doing the Miracle Morning. Did you ever read that book?
Yeah, I tried following. I feel like I get too stressed out when I had that much to do each morning. I really did. Like, right?
Yeah,
Like the meditation I can really stick with. I love all the stuff. I try to do it each day, but I wake up and I'm like, okay, I've got a tight schedule already, and now I've got to do this. And it does help tee up my day pretty well, but I found that if I scatter it out a little bit better, like I do my journaling at night. I do my learning when I'm driving to and from places, listening to audiobooks. So I kind of amended it in a hair, but the general concept I like just doesn't work that rigidly for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you wake up, are you a check the email first kind of person, or you go into meditation now before you do anything else?
Meditation first. And actually, Android came out with an awesome update. It's got the best do not disturb mode I've ever seen. It's basically like airplane mode, but you still can connect to things. And then the only people that can get through if they call or text is Mike, my partner, and Steph. Everybody else. And the best part, it doesn't even show the notification. Like usually other times it'll silence it. And you see like the little notification bars gone until you hit undo. Then you see all your notifications. So it hides all your notifications too, which is the best part about it.
That's awesome.
Hope so Apple it truly takes it off your mind. What?
Hope Apple gets something like that soon.
Apple is slowly decaying away.
I don't know. I've always been a couple versions back already still, but
I just always hated the Apple thing, how you had to have everything Apple or else, right? I've always, and I like Google for most of our things. So I have the Pixel phone, so it just makes it super easy to integrate with all of that.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a really cool thing. And I at night, I've been doing the airplane mode at night, before bed, partially for that whole like Wi-Fi, wireless, whatever, brain cancer. I don't know.
I heard about that recently. I'm actually kicking around the idea of just turning on airplane mode too. It's hard. Even though I'm doing the do not disturb mode, having the airplane mode on, it's like, ooh, what if? And I don't know what if.
Yeah, but for how many years, right? Did you have, no concern about not having a phone right next to you?
I know. It's amazing how fast those things took over our brains and our actions and our habits.
Yeah. But anyway, the software is going to be coming out real soon and have you guys on the beta list. If anybody out there is listening and wants to find out more about FlipPilot, you can go to flippilot.com and put your email in, and then that way you'll get notifications of the feature stuff that we're doing, the videos and all that kind of stuff coming out. And Mike, if anybody wants to reach out to you after listening to this podcast, how can they do that?
Anyone can reach me by email. It's probably the best way. It's Mike.Cowper, COWPER at WeBuyBuyROI.com. So Mike.Cowper at WeBuyROI.com.
Nice. So
and
great.
Forgive me if it takes a second to get back to you. I get a fair amount of emails.
Well, it's been great having you on and talking with you. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we close out the show?
I appreciate you having me on and people that are listening. It's not as scary as it really seems sometimes. If you're just getting started or if you're in a troublesome scenario, right? Try and surround yourself with the right people and people that can help be a truly good relationship, not just someone that you picked up their business card at some networking event or a friend on LinkedIn that you've never met before. Try to work on building those strong foundational relationships for your network, because then when you're in a pinch, they can help out and they can be kind of like your personal sounding board. So I would recommend building good relationships with people. And that goes through every aspect of our businesses, because if we do a good job of that, we get more business, we get better better profit margin, we get better people. So it took me a while to realize that relationships and people are really, really, really important, and I can't do it all myself.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think, because when you were saying 2014, right? Think about that. That's not been that long. 4 years. And you guys are doing an insane amount of business. And, what you've learned in that short amount of time, could you imagine where you would be had you not, done the things that you did to get around the people that were already doing that?
I wouldn't be anywhere close. I feel like, especially with our group, since it's nationwide and it's just curated so well with just the best people, I don't know that I would have been able to find an abundance-minded group of people like that are just willing to share everything. So I can't imagine how I could have been where I'm at now. I mean, I could be still working a 9-to-5 sales job, which, I didn't hate, but I hate being told what to do. So it would have been perfect.
So you're presenting at Flip Hacking Live?
Yeah. I'm actually going to be talking about kind of 3 tools for overcoming fear. We kind of highlighted a little bit of them today, but yeah, I'm really going to try and help share my story of how I overcame stuff. And I think a lot of people suffer from similar fears and how to get through that, to get to action, to get to the results and build the business and hopefully the life that you really dream of.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm nervous. Just gonna be a lot of people. So my fear is still there too, right? Fear never goes away.
Speaking on stage, you did a great. You spoke last year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, together with Mike, or what, was it you by yourself?
It was me by myself last year, and Mike and I spoke together 2 years ago.
And last year there was what, 600 people?
Yeah. It was a lot of folks, I think. Biggest audience I ever talked to.
Yeah, it's going to be even bigger this year. Do you know how many people?
I don't. I think tickets are getting pretty low right now, but look up Flip Hacking Live if you're interested and they're still available. It's going to be a great event, but yeah, I think they're getting right. I don't, Bill and Justin had told me, but details sometimes slip my mind.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's much more than 600. So many people get so much out of that every year. And I know they sell quite a few of those at the event the year before. So it's already kind of like a done deal.
Yeah, it's sold pretty well from the people that were there last year.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's coming up quick. What, 2 months? Not even that. Month
October 18th, I think, is the first day.
Yeah, a month and a half.
Yeah.
Man, well, I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. I can't wait. We got our masterminds right before that.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a blast. And the next one, Melissa told me, was it Colorado?
Yeah, Colorado in February.
Very cool. Gonna be cold, depending on where it's at, I guess.
Yeah, I think they're doing like a snowboarding thing, but I'm worried about, getting dead.
Oh man. Yeah, that can happen.
It can, and it scares me. And we have a baby. It's due in early January 5th. It's the day. So I'm going to be kind of tight lining. I'm going to get there, as late as I can and leave as early as I can without, shorting anybody or anybody in the group. But yeah, the less time away from home, the better things are for me at home.
Hear that. Yeah, with the snowboarding, we took last spring break, we went skiing for the first time with the little ones, our 2 smaller ones. And they've never been to a mountain or anything or skied or snowboarded. So we got like a group lesson for snowboarding for the whole family.
Yeah.
And kind of did that. But, my son, who I think at the time was maybe 4, could stand there and kind of go down the bunny slope, but he couldn't really like carve or do anything or turn.
Yeah.
And so the next day I was like, well, I'm going to go up on the mountain, because I've been there before, done that before a couple of times. And it's like, I want to go hit some bigger slopes. So I did, and Melissa went off on her own. I think she did something. But anyway, we had the little ones go off with 2 young instructors. And so I was already kind of nervous about it because they're pretty young.
Yeah.
And, then I hear on the intercom thing, like, Johnson report to the like nurses station or whatever the thing is. And so I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And I walked into the nurses station, and like, I look, there's a bunch of empty beds, but back in the back left, there's a bunch of people and a doctor and all kinds of stuff going on. And there's like a back brace and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened to my kids? And I was freaking out. Like, I thought something really bad had happened. And I turned to the right, and I see my 2 kids sitting there crying, eating Snickers bars. They were just scared because they couldn't find us. And that's all that it was. But, when they did on the intercom, or somebody grabbed us and told us to go there, it didn't say what it was about. So it was just like, man, that was scary.
They could give you a heads up. Yeah, they're scared. They can't find you. Not go to the nurse station. Yeah, not sure why.
Yeah. See that helicopter taking? No. Yeah, that's not good. But anyway, I feel like I'm rambling now. So I'll let you get going. It's good talking to you, Mike, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Sounds good, Danny. Catch you later.
Have a good one.
All right. Thanks.